1963, and a follow-up moon mission is underway. Last year, we saw the end of the year with a Mitsley 3.0 heading towards the moon. Of course, this mission failed to reach the specified orbit required of it, and this mission decided to do something a little bit different. We increased the delta V on the base rocket. We used a Kuruk 3416A, and we brought the rocket up and launched it towards the moon, hoping to spend far less delta V in the initial burn towards the moon, and then we would come in a lot closer to the moon and create the desired orbit utilizing the Baby Sergeant solid rocket motor. Unfortunately, this mission will be a failure, and not just because the Baby Sergeant solid rocket motor does not contain enough delta V to be able to get us into the required orbit. It will be a failure because I forget to detach the transfer stage. The transfer stage has much more powerful computing units, and therefore it will require far more electricity over the course of the probe's lifespan. And so by the time that the probe actually reached the moon, its battery is dead. Quite unfortunate, an unfortunate way for this mission to end, but we learned a little bit from it, and I'm always open to learning from my experiences. Here you can see the decoupler seemed to work even though there was no electric charge, and we got to watch the probe coast in past the moon and on a flyby trajectory destined to orbit the sun. Quite an unfortunate end to our second attempt at this would make it the third attempt. Our third attempt at a lunar orbiter within the specifications of the lunar program. Unfortunately, no science would be gained on this mission, and we would have to wait and see. Our next mission may be able to give us some extra science. Following the launch of that Mitsley 3.0, we now have the Tayan 14F aboard a Kuruk 2410A. This vehicle is a modification of our previous film recovery vehicles and now has a new camera on it designed for better pictures. This one also has a longer lifespan, greater increase in battery, and its solar panels allow it to stay alive for just over a day in orbit. You can see some really good shots of these cameras before they flip over and look at the Earth. This is the vehicle reaching its orbit. And while the program is drifting towards a more scientific future following the blunder of the government where it decided that the Aurora space program would be destined for military use. The military still does get some benefits from the program. These pictures will obviously be going towards the military first, so that way they can discern anything over enemy territory before the program would get those specific images to then look at them themselves. And here you can see we have the retrograde burn down pat at this point, we understand, and the probe will end up landing somewhere in Brazil. Thankfully, we have good relations with Brazil at the moment, and we will be able to recover that capsule. Of course, it may need some special forces out there escorting Brazilian authorities to the capsule point, but I'm sure they won't mind once they see how big our rockets are. Sure, they will be more than happy to oblige us in the escort mission. Of course, you can see it descends perfectly and will then be recovered shortly afterwards. Though the program up to this point has largely used probes and unmanned spacecraft, it is not the destiny of this program to simply stick to electronic-based research of our local space. This program is destined to send men into orbit, and women, of course, men and women into orbit, and this is the first test of a vehicle capable of doing so. This is the Chasqui-1 OTV, which stands for Orbital Test Vehicle. The Orbital Test Vehicle is a simple Mercury capsule on top of a rocket stack, and it is on top of the Kurik 3, which has been standardized for human flight. This is very important. We want to have a very powerful standard rocket. You can see now it is time for the descent, and we missed the point where the where the capsule was put into orbit, but we did get to orbit successfully, and now we are preparing for descent, and I'll let you watch that now. Unfortunately, as you see, the capsule failed to re-enter, and our manned program has once again been set back. In the near future, a new vehicle, the SOTV, will be rolled out, and it is another Chasqui-1 variant. This will put to use a suborbital launcher to then test the heat shield upon reentry. Unfortunately, the program is devastated at the loss of its orbital test vehicle. Though it is not super expensive, it is just a major setback. And in spite of this, we have decided to round out the year with a success story. This is another launch of the Mitsley 3.0. This will be the final variant of this vehicle, and we are headed towards the moon now. Great success will be happening very soon. Of course, following the failure of the first Mitsley 3.0 this year, we will not make the same mistake. I will not make the mistake of leaving the transfer stage attached. However, this Mitsley probe does have a few differences. It has the solar panels moved up to the probe body. The smaller the solar panel, the cheaper the cost of the vehicle, and therefore it would be better if the solar panels were on the probe body. That way they could be the smallest possible size, and the vehicle would get the maximum possible lifespan instead of putting them on the transfer stage where they're not needed. So the transfer stage has lost its solar panels at this point, and we're going to continue to move the solar panels up and closer to the probe vehicle in order to make the most out of our limited funds. And at long last, we have reached the desired orbit, and we will finish out the Lunar Probes program. Following the end of this program, we will pick up early interplanetary probes, and next year we may have a few major launches heading out to planets like Venus, Mars, and beyond. You may know that Mars windows typically come every 2 years on the even years, and so Mars will be our target around the end of 1964, but Venus, we have a window coming up in early 1964. While the SOTV, the Chasqui-1 SOTV, is under construction currently, and it will be the first vehicle out for the year, the Venus probe will be coming shortly thereafter. And now that we are at the end of the episode watching these beautiful images of our Mitsley 3.0 orbiting the moon, collecting gravity and radiation data, we have a few things to go over. Of course, this episode was a little bit shorter, and I apologize for that. I tried to make sure that some of the music hit more intense beats and the video matched the music a little bit better, especially in the opening. I just wondered if anybody liked that, if anybody preferred this version. It does take a little bit longer for me to put the episode together, but I'm trying to improve my editing techniques every single year. Now, this doesn't mean that an episode will be late like this every single day, every single week, but because of those editing techniques that I put in, it may take a little bit longer from time to time. Of course, I still would like to get these episodes out on Saturdays like I had before. And now that we've come to the end, I would like to thank you all for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button or hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below if you have any further thoughts. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.